How the Snitch Stole Shedtown. On the south side of Muncie, in the shadow is found an infamous neighborhood known as Shedtown, where traffic lights work, but sometimes they don't, and they could fix the roads, but they probably won't. But in the shadow of shadows crawled out of the ditch a triflin' ass honky, known as the Snitch, a man mean and nasty in bite and in bark. He was a thief and a liar and a neighborhood narc. He would rummage through cars, but before he was gone, he would check and make sure that their dome light stayed on. All just because he saw it as fun to take others' joy, because he had none. His trailer sat perched on cinder block stilts, and when he slams the screen door, it wobbles and tilts. The smell of ammonia faint in the air, from the lab in the camper that caught fire near there. Through rebel flag curtains, there you could see him sitting and plotting while watching TV. He stood up distressed while licking his lips. His wallet sat empty, along with his scripts. And without money or barter, he was in quite a bind, and bicycles were increasingly harder to find. "Maybe I've already gotten 'em all," he sneered to himself as he glared through the wall. Then he popped his last handful of footballs and bars, and from the window he gazed through the Confederate stars. He saw an old wagon that a tractor would pull, and next to it lay Pete, his trusty pit bull. Always dragging a tire, he grew pretty strong. His shoulders were wide as his body was long. As Pete stood up and started dragging his chain, the Snitch formed ideas in his twisted old brain. And then it came to him. In a moment he knew, with Pete in that wagon, I know what I'll do. I've been through their garbage. I know what they've got. They all got their stimmies. I know what they've bought. And tomorrow, he grinned, is the 4th of July. It's the perfect distraction for what I will try. They'll wake up and start drinking because they don't have to work. Put on their sunglasses, hat, and America shirt. They'll cook burgers and dogs and hot apple pie, and at night go to Central to look at the sky. They'll watch the fireworks show and they'll swell up with pride, and when they hear Lee Greenwood, they'll cry and they'll cry. And while they are gone, with no one around, with Pete in that wagon, I'll rob all Shedtown. Not at all tired, he worked night and day, and by the next evening he had finished his sleigh. Just one more thing. As he looked at his ride, he ripped down the curtains and hung them from the side. Then off in the distance, he saw the start of the show. He jumped on the wagon. "All right, Pete, let's go." From one house to another, he moved lightning quick. A credit card on the locks, an old junkie trick. Through the windows and doors, he moved in a flash, grabbing anything of value, sentimental or cash. He took every tablet and all the TVs, PS3, 4, and 5, and all DVDs, necklaces, earrings of all shapes and sizes, watches and toys and Bluetooth devices. He cleaned them all out. Then to the next house he flew, from Rochester down to Hoyt Avenue. Then he looked over and he saw the finale. With the wagon piled high, he turned down the alley. Approaching the street with no intention to stop, he blew by a patrol car. "What the hell?" said the cop. The cop tried to follow and call in what he saw. A meth head on a wagon being pulled by a dog. "Faster, go faster," he demanded of Pete, as sirens and lights came from every street. But Pete had them beat at every pass, and as he snapped on the chains, Pete turned up the gas. With cops in pursuit, he remained undeterred. He raced out of Shedtown and turned down 23rd. It started to look like he might get away, that ice-smoking Santa in his redneck rig sleigh. But one thing in Muncie that we all know well, from the stories of Dillinger our boomers would tell, you can avoid the police and the underpass when it rains, but there's Norfolkin way to avoid all the trains. But giving up now was not in his plan. "Faster," he snapped with the chain in his hand. Well, Pete crossed the tracks, but not by a lot. But the Snitch in the wagon of loot, it did not. In a field of debris all broken and scattered, lay the Snitch in a daze, but completely untattered. They cuffed him and hauled him off to the pen, and as for this story, I suppose it's the end. What happened to the snitch? Well, in Shedtown they say his ass started snitching and got out the next day.